to NURFM.com, a broadcast service of the University of Newcastle.
Dr. Moira Gordon is a Conjoint Senior Lecturer with the University of Newcastle Business School in the Faculty of Business and Law. Dr. Gordon set up NERLA, which is a network for retired University of Newcastle staff to keep in touch. And it's probably a very handy thing since there's a gala reunion on its way. Dr. Moira Gordon, hello and welcome.
Hello and welcome to you. Thank you for having me here.
Look, it's a privilege to have you here.
But now can I make a correction? I didn't set up NERLA. NERLA has been in existence for many, many years, and it actually virtually predates the amalgamation of High He, which was formerly the Teachers' College, with the University of Newcastle. So it had had its origins in the old Newcastle Teachers' College. The staff set up their Retired Lecturers Association, which is NERLA, then.
So they then were hoping that they'd still continue to get together all these years later, which is wonderful.
And they have indeed. So many, many years later, NERLA is still a very great organisation to be connected with.
Dr. Gordon, tell us about your connection with the university. What did you do here?
I came here many, many years ago, going back to 1957 when I first came to Newcastle, and I started as a research assistant with Professor Cyril Rennick. Yeah. I worked as a research assistant for about 3 years and ended up doing a little bit of part-time teaching at the same stage, teaching quantitative methods for economics students.
Oh, that's a tricky one.
Which is a challenge.
Yes.
Which is a challenge. Then I had a few years off while my family was small, came back to, again, part-time tutoring around about 1968, continued as a part-time tutor for many years, realised that by that stage credentialism had come in and my first degree was not going to get me onto a full-time staff or into a full-time research position, so commenced working my way towards that PhD. And then finally, when I got the PhD, which was about 86, so I got a lot later, then I got a position in the economics department, started as a lecturer and eventually became senior lecturer, by which time it was time to retire.
And you did use that R word, so that was your retirement, you said was 20 years ago, but you seem to have been as busy as ever.
Oh, definitely. Retirement is a furphy. It means that you work your butt off and no one pays you.
And tell us about what you have been getting involved in more recent times, Dr. Gordon.
Well, I did, when I first retired, it was a stage where there was a lot of economic and social planning being done in Newcastle and the Hunter region in the 1990s, because this was the stage where BHP was closing and there was a big transformation. So I was involved in many of the groups that were involved in economic planning there, the Newcastle Beyond 2000 Committee and an Upper Hunter Beyond 2000 Committee there. So many of these groups and organisations, and I'm still involved with some of them. So this time tomorrow morning I'm going to be at a board meeting for Nova Skill, which is a group training organisation.
Can I have your assessment on the transition of our region economically, and where do you think we are positioned at the moment? I'd love your learned opinion on it.
Well, that transition that occurred in the 1990s was actually relatively easy because there'd already been a big transition quietly going on from dependence on manufacturing into the service sector.
Yes.
There. And again, this is, I think, the same situation. You're going to have an analogous situation now because the transition is going into high-tech industries, high-tech manufacturing and high-tech consumer services. IT is really going to drive the future.
So getting away from things like the coal industry and the more heavy-based industries to some extent, or are they going to be somehow melded into the future?
Coal is going to be there inevitably for a number of years. You'll probably have morphing occurring within the energy sector, and certainly, that is in the environmental sector too. There, so you're going to have changes in energy use occurring, and this area is well positioned to be among the drivers for that.
You've predicted those things in the past very accurately. That's why I was keen to hear your thoughts into the future for us. And in the not too distant future, there's going to be a knees up for the staff of the university. Will you be attending the gala reunion, Dr. Gordon?
Oh, my word. I am really looking forward to this. There's something absolutely special about a 50th anniversary. 40th, 60th, yeah, they're special, but 50th is really different. And the next big one's going to be the 100th.
Yes.
So I'm not going to be around for that, so I've got to make the most of this one.
Oh, sounds wonderful. And in parting, do you have a fond memory or perhaps a quirky story from your days at the university to share?
Well, someone reminded me the other day of the very early days on this campus where of a morning you would see the Vice-Chancellor, James Auchmuty, strolling down to the library to read the Times educational supplement. Wouldn't you love a Vice-Chancellor to have time to do that now?
I'm sure Professor Carolyn McMillan would be thinking, oh my goodness, if only. Dr. Moira Gordon, it is indeed a pleasure to have you in the studio. Thank you for your time and thank you for the contribution that you've made not only to the Newcastle University but to the Hunter region more broadly.
Thank you for having me.
Dr. Moira Gordon here at the University of Newcastle, and she'll be attending the gala, so that's your cue to go to the website, the University of Newcastle website. If you are a past academic or staff member, get your ticket and get along to the reunion.